League of Legends is an incredibly popular video game with millions of players and a dedicated competitive scene. This year, over 73 million people tuned in to watch the World Finals. League esports is constantly growing and here to stay. However, despite the growing numbers, League esports in the US, there is one issue that consistently divides fans and pros alike: importing. Okay, let's get started with the basics. What even is importing and why do people get so fired up about it? Well, the League of Legends esports scene is split into 12 regions, 4 major, 8 minor, and teams are expected to field players who are residents of that region. However, teams are allowed to field a maximum of 2 non-resident players at a time. The terms import and resident tend to get thrown around a lot and can mean different things to different people. That's because non-residents can gain residency in a region if they get citizenship in the country. This gets even more muddled for the LCS in particular, as Oceanic players used to take up an import slot like everyone else, but no longer do.
And so that can lead to then a new import slot being opened up, and that player is not actually imported, but they originally were imported. So there's an impression of more importing, and it kind of is, but it's a bit of a gray area depending how you want to think about it.
So for the sake of argument, let's define a resident as a player who started with North American residency and plays in the LCS. So let's answer the question. How much does the LCS actually import?
Let's look at some numbers. Across the most recent split, summer 2021, 8 out of the 10 LCS teams used at least one import over the course of the 27-game split, and 6 of those maxed out their import slots. That's not even taking into consideration the former imports and the Oceanic Exodus. By comparison, the LEC, the League NA is most commonly compared to, only had 2 imports across the entire league.
This is already abnormal for a major region, but where it gets really concerning is when you look at the top teams. These are the 3 rosters that represented North America at Worlds 2021. These players take up import slots, these players were originally imports but eventually gained residency, and the only reason these players count as residents is because Riot had to do something nice for Oceania after dissolving their entire professional league.
2022? This stat is going to get even worse for these 3. Team Liquid is axing their only domestic player Tactical for a European import, Rogues Han Sama, while Cloud9 is dropping Vulcan for Isles, who comes from Oceania, and Winsome, who is a domestic player, but he started his career in LCK Academy. This means that 2 of North America's top teams will be fielding precisely 0 players from the region they represent. Though to 100 Thieves' credit, someday will be splitting time with the resident Academy star Tenacity.
So the North American teams definitely have the advantage of money, and that can make it easier to, if you offer a player from another region a giant paycheck, they might take it just for that reason, even if they think it gives them less of a chance to kind of win a world championship or reach those goals.
But these aren't the only teams in North America that have hopped on the import train. Goodness no. River and Blue to Dignitas, Inspired for Evil Geniuses, to Quill and Jose Dioto for FlyQuest, Pride Stalker and Olay to Golden Guardian, Cersei and Power of Evil for Immortals. And while the players are unconfirmed, the rumor mill surrounding LCS giant TSM's mid and support aren't questions of if they'll import, but where from and who specifically. Let's start with an obvious potential source of domestic talent: collegiate teams. Each one of the big 4 American sports leagues have drafts where players from college get signed to pro teams, and Riot has an extensive collegiate system with hundreds of participating schools around the nation. So why do so few college students get signed to LCS teams? Well, aside from the LCS's draft being so inconsequential it's being abolished in 2022, there's just one small issue. The collegiate system wasn't designed as a path to pro.
That doesn't mean that that can't happen or it can't be a path to pro. We've had 8 or 9 college players get some LCS playing time over the last 4 years, but it's not designed to be a path to pro. What it's designed to is for the 99.8% of players that are never going to play Pro League of Legends and aren't going to try to play Pro League of Legends. So being a path to pro is like a kind of a happy side effect of the college season, but it's not something that we actively work towards.
And the college system does that job well.
As a result of understanding and kind of putting your own ego down and aside, I think that also translates to even my own schoolwork, or even how I work my own relationships, because you're not always going to be the main character.
Now that I have kind of a whole other part of my life that's not just my high school friends, now I have new friends from the like Ryan and the coach and all the other players, I can actually like talk to them, and it's kind of like instead of just going to class and going home and playing, now I can like do things outside of my home with them, and it's just better, honestly.
But with college out of the question, it is left to the academy teams and amateurs to fill the void.
I think the main change that I'm wanting to see, aside from doing better storytelling, which I try to contribute to and, highlight the players that the fans should be getting excited about, things like this, I just want to see all 10 of the LCS organizations investing in it and treating it as a real opportunity, and as big of an opportunity as I know it is, and not defaulting to veteran players and not defaulting to imported players who restrict their roster flexibility, because you do only have those 2 import slots. So being able to develop resident players and make those the core of your roster gives you so much more option to then import later if you need to.
With the new season fast approaching, it's only a matter of time to tell if teams will take a chance on North American talent.